We have news from Ducati. There is a new 2025 Panigale V4 and V4S, and they've made some pretty serious updates to this bike.
Yeah, this is one of their, if not the flagship bike in Ducati's lineup. And yeah, there's some major changes. Some of the biggest changes we've seen in many years. And yeah, they touched a lot of different aspects of this bike. So we're going to go through, give you everything you need to know about the new V4 and V4S. Let's jump right into it.
Yeah, and right from the get-go, looking at this bike and its bodywork, you're going to notice some immediate differences. So the design, they've changed up the styling quite a bit. Probably the first thing that you'll notice are the winglets and the front end and the headlights. They've changed that quite a bit. I think it's a little controversial. There's some people out there that really love the new design, and then there's other people like ourselves that think it looks a little bit like the face of the Predator in the old Arnold Schwarzenegger movie when the face of the Predator opens up a little bit.
One ugly motherfucker.
I don't know. I think mixed feelings about the look of the front end.
Yeah, I've kind of scrolled through Instagram a little bit and tried to get some reactions, the initial reactions, and yeah, it's pretty split down the middle. We both think it's not the best looking bike, or at least I think the previous year looked a lot better than this current one. Maybe it'll grow on me, but headlights definitely got a little more narrow. The winglets got paint match now instead of being the black. It lost the side gills that were cut into the lower part of the fairing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So a little bit of a different look now. Ducati says they were taking inspiration from the 916, but a lot of people, including the two of us, are saying it looks a little more like a 1098. So let us know what you think of the design down in the comments below, but you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it.
One thing that is objectively good is that the new fairings reduce the aerodynamic resistance by about 4%. So there is a incremental, not dramatic, but a slight upgrade there. They've also changed up the riding position and the ergonomics a little bit, so it's narrower. The bike is at the foot pegs, and the fuel tank is reshaped, they say, for a slightly better knee grip.
Yeah, so hopefully, you know, it might feel like a smaller bike. That would be my guess, with the foot pegs being a little narrow. I think it's like 0.4 or half an inch narrower than the previous generation. And then you also have a longer and wider seat. So a little more surface area in every way on the seat. So that'll make it a little easier to move around on the bike and position yourself how would be most comfortable. So that's all good to see. And there's also some big changes with the chassis. So Ducati was aiming for optimized lateral stiffness. There is a new frame, but the main way they did this, which is super controversial, is a new swing arm. And it's a double-sided swing arm, which a lot of people might hate.
Yeah, it's really been a staple on these bikes to have the single-sided swing arm for a long time, and I think it's been a big selling point for a lot of people, looks-wise. They do look really cool, and they've stepped away from that. So that is kind of a big departure for this bike. It might not sound like a huge deal, but I think some people are a little up in arms about it.
Yeah, according to Ducati, they actually made two kind of prototype versions of this bike. They made one with a single-sided swing arm and one with a dual-sided swing arm. They had their test riders ride both of them, and there was a clear winner in the double-sided swing arms. So it seems like it was the way to go, but people that have owned these bikes in the past really love the style of it and just the way you get the bike onto a rear stand. There's some cool aspects. There's also some annoying aspects to a single-sided swing arm, but definitely one of the more controversial parts of this new Panigale.
And look, ultimately, as you'll see when we walk through all of the updates that have been made to this bike, is they're really chasing after very incremental, very slight upgrades to these motorcycles because they're already so high performance, they're operating at such a high level that they're having to chase down some pretty minor things to try and improve from where this bike has already been in the past. So that's one of those things that, yeah, it's going to upset some people, but it's one of the few things that they can potentially do to actually make this bike perform a little bit better. So that's I think, kind of the idea there. And along those lines, we'll talk about the engine. So they've made just slight refinements to the engine. So 1103cc Desmo Sedici Stradale V4, kind of like it has been in the past. 89.5 pound-feet of torque, and 209 horsepower here in the States. If you're in other markets, 216 horsepower. And also pretty cool, in other markets, you can get a couple different Akrapovic exhausts, one of which bumps you up to 224 horsepower, the other of which bumps you up to 228 horsepower. So there's some cool options for that. Sounds like we're not really getting so many of those options, and we're getting a little bit less power than the bikes overseas. But one of the main things that they've done to upgrade this engine and refine it a little bit is they've actually pulled some weight out of it. So about a kilogram or 2.2 pounds out of the motor. And they've used some parts from the Superleggera and a few different things to make it lighter. They also made some slight revisions to the cooling system and to the valve train. And it's all Euro 5 Plus compliant. But yeah, they're all pretty minor upgrades. It's not a dramatic difference.
Yeah, I don't think if you have spent a lot of time on the last year's Panigale V4 and then you hop onto this one, you're going to feel a huge change in the engine. It's probably going to feel pretty similar, which is a good thing because they've really refined the Panigale V4 over the years. So it's good to see they're not doing too much, just minor improvements. And like you said, you're not going to throw like an extra 100 horsepower at this bike. It's already crazy, so there's not a ton you need to do. Moving on to suspension, two different setups as was seen previously. So on the standard V4, you're going to get 43 millimeter Showa forks that are fully adjustable and a Sachs monoshock at the rear, also fully adjustable. But if you jump up to the V4S, one of the main selling points of that bike is the Öhlins suspension. So you get Öhlins front and rear, fully electronic adjustment on those. So preload, rebound, and compression damping, all that's going to be controlled through your menus, through the screen. You don't have to pull a screwdriver out to do any of that. And also, in addition to the Öhlins suspension you're going to get on the S, you're also going to get forged wheels, which is a nice upgrade.
Yeah, and because of some of those, if you get the S version, it's going to be a little bit lighter. So the standard motorcycle, the standard V4 weighs 421 pounds, already pretty light for a bike that's making over 200 horsepower. V4S is going to be 412 pounds, and that's going to be one of your big differences there between the V4 and the V4S. The wheels are same size, same width and everything, but the S gets those forged wheels that you were talking about. And then also a pretty cool new braking system that we'll be interested to check out. These are Brembo High Pure brakes. So they're monoblocks, but in a new version of it. Twin 330 millimeter discs in the front and a 245 millimeter disc in the rear. So really quite a bit of braking. I guess one of the things that they're saying with these new Brembo High Pure brakes is that they're 10% lighter. So it's another example of a small area where they've done some more refinement, eked out just that little bit extra that you can get, and it all accumulates to a faster, better bike. But these are some pretty small refinements because, again, these bikes are already so high performance.
And especially with weight. Like, there is a 9-pound difference between the S and the non-S version. But, unless you're, like, super focused on your body weight and you're racing these, it's not going to matter that much in the real world while you're riding these things. We'll talk about the tech package for a sec because it's got some pretty impressive tech. Real big 6.9-inch TFT screen. I think Ducati's screen looks pretty good, so that's good to see. And there is a ton of rider aids. So there's a new Ducati Vehicle Observer. That's kind of the tech package they're calling DVO. So that's going to look at, the IMU, and Ducati's saying it's almost predictive with how many calculations it can make. Not so sure that it's actually predictive. It's probably just more of marketing speak, but it's supposed to be improved over last year's tech package and include all the standard stuff like different riding modes, power modes, traction control, wheelie control, slide control, brake control, obviously all that's going to be adjustable. ABS, and it has a new eCBS ABS system. All these acronyms are crazy, but it's basically a track-only ABS system that will link the front and rear brakes for better braking performance. Ton of stuff they're doing. Cruise control, tire pressure monitoring, navigation, phone connectivity, all that stuff. So all the stuff you would expect to see from a very expensive Italian motorcycle.
Well, that ABS system is worked on with Bosch, and it's crazy how many different metrics on the bike are being evaluated while it's helping refine that ABS programming. And There's a ton as far as technology goes on this bike, as you would expect and hope for with a bike that's got this much power. And then a couple other small details: 4.5 gallon tank, 15,000 mile valve adjustment interval, so not too bad. I don't imagine that people are racking up more than 15,000 miles on these bikes very quickly.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that happens very often. I think most of these, by the time they get to 15,000 miles, they're on their second or third owner probably.
Yeah, $25,995 for the standard model, already not cheap. $33,895 for the V4S. So quite a big premium for that bike. I also want to say a quick thanks to our friends over at Rider Justice, because they've been supporting this channel basically since day one. So if you ever need legal representation, either if you're on 2 wheels or 4, make sure you call Scott first. It's our buddy over there, and they do awesome work.
Yeah, so there you go. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out alltfl.com so you stay up to date on all the latest bike news. Some more riding videos coming later this summer, probably next week. We'll see you in the next video.